All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case as people pour in here. Got to make sure that Rumble is working. The chat does appear to be working, but we'll make sure that the video is working too. We have 9, I believe, news topics to cover today. Of course, the big one, Queen Elizabeth has died. We'll be talking about that at length. We'll be talking about the DOJ as well, going up against the Special Master Review. They've decided to appeal that, which is insane, but yeah. And we've also got TDS nuclear secret topics to cover as well. But let me make sure that we're actually live on Rumble before we continue. I think we are. Yes, indeed. We are live on Rumble, which means we can get right into it. My apologies for starting roughly an hour early, but I've got limited time to actually do my stream today. I figured it's better to do it an hour early than like 3 or 4 hours late. I've got other things that I have to do. I did cook cottage pie last night, so I don't have to cook dinner. There's plenty of leftovers. Lots and lots of goodness. And by the way, when I put the potatoes in, the potatoes are already seasoned enough, so, you know, they stand on their own. Joe Blow, bend the knee to the tampon king and the homewrecker bowels. Yeah, I guess it's King Charles now. The tampon dude. It'll be interesting watching what he does as King of England. I'm sorry, King of all of Britain. North Ireland, England, Scotland, and Wales, and various possessions around the world, most of which are fucking meaningless at this point, but we'll be talking about that. Wildcat Diva, what is the crust for cottage pie like? It doesn't have a crust. By pie, the bottom layer is hamburger or some other meat. Technically, lamb is more traditional. I just use hamburger. And then you layer vegetables, whatever you want on top of that. A lot of people use corn. I used peas and carrots. And then you put the mashed potatoes on top, crisp it on top. You can add cheese to the top. I don't like it with cheese, but Liz does. So I did like a half and half on it. And then you just you roast it without the foil on long enough for the top to be a little bit crispy. I am being bombarded by pollen at the moment. In fact, I think it might be the flower next to me. I can smell it sometimes. I don't dare to lean in close and smell it. I might puff up. I'll look all puffy and fucked up. Mad Zach, Styx doesn't like cheese. Yes, that will be the Right Wing Watch article about me. Love cheese. Not a fan of it on cottage or shepherd's pie. Technically, it is a shepherd's pie. Cottage pie is more like with the corn and the hamburger and stuff. Technically, it's got a different term, but I always grew up hearing it was shepherd's pie, so what I've got is cottage pie. I don't know if that makes any sense. But yeah, we'll be going into it. For those of you that are joining, I do ask at this time, we are at war with Turkey on Pixel Planet, and we need your help. They've counterattacked again, and so we need to drive them back. Apparently, they didn't get the memo. On Pixel Planet, link in the description on both platforms. I'll also pop it in, by the way, over on Rumble really quickly here. There's the link. Fucking take it. There's the link. Fucking help out. And we have a nemesis. I don't know who exactly it is. There is apparently a TikTok uploader who has been making videos trying to rally support for the Turkish side in this struggle on Pixel Planet. And so it's basically, you know, old wave content creator, which is me, versus, I'm assuming, some Zoomer from Turkey. Turkey invaded their neighbors. I'll just give you long story short. They invaded Greece. They invaded Armenia. They're currently invading Bulgaria as well. They've also invaded the tip of Italy at this point, Albania, and they're trying to take over the entire region. I guess they're trying to reestablish the Ottoman Empire. We have trashed the goddamn ever-living fuck out of them. There are blue blobs all over their map. They've taken massive attrition, and they do not have the manpower to stand up to us if we muster full manpower. So please do take that link and take that medium blue that you see over that's being used in Greece. Help the Greeks. First, we have to clear out their area. Their flag's been defaced. Part of their mainland has been invaded at this point, including most of Crete. And then start pushing heavily into Turkey itself. If you want to deface their main logo there, the star and the moon, go ahead. Pixel it in blue. Please don't destroy artwork. Some of it was made by clankers and Greek people anyway. This is now a war of attrition. And so we have no choice but to continue fighting. And the other day I was kind of like, well, we are also taking on the Fibonacci's down in the middle of Africa. But then I realized we're winning that anyway because there aren't enough of them, even if they're botting. So we're going all in against Turkey at this moment. So just destroy fucking everything, but please do go around the artwork. If it looks reasonable, like someone obviously spent a little bit of time on it, please go around it. If it's just like 3 pixels or something, nobody gives a shit. We'll be talking about Queen Elizabeth in a minute, of course, but I wanted to get that off my chest. I will remind people throughout the stream, of course, as more people come in. SP Elite, what's lowest learner? Is it like No Child Left Behind? And also the Tea Party too. Heard you mention these things before. Lowest learner is an individual who headed the IRS under Obama and was implicated and had to step down because she was denying nonprofit status to both conservative and progressive groups when they applied. And it was a huge scandal. She was the fall girl to keep it from affecting the Obama administration. The Tea Party, I mean, you can look that up. U.S. Tea Party surging in 2010, 2012, big political movement. Preamble. How does it feel to know Frank Garrett will finally be ascending to his rightful place at the throne? I did think about that, actually, that it's funny that Prince Charles, and now King Charles, was used as the face of Frank Garrett, actually, for years and years on those prank calls. Brad Anderson. Hey, Sticks, are the royal family vampires? I saw something where they are from Germany via Transylvania. Yeah, Prince Charles alluded to that, I think, at one point, about having Vlad the Impaler as one of his ancestors. He could do worse. Hell, maybe I'm related distantly. I do have Slovak ancestry, and it's in the same neck of the woods. There was a lot of crossbreeding there. DC, cottage pie has beef and lamb for a shepherd pie. Only difference. Yeah, I think so. So I guess this is cottage pie. Pork sea fish, how long before Scotland secedes? They failed at that over and over again, so they'll probably fail in the future. They'll be reluctant to do it right now, though, in this interim period because of respect for the Queen. The Queen that they constantly defame and talk down about. You should see, by the way, we'll get right into it really quickly. Live updates. Queen Elizabeth II dies. Charles III becomes king. Yes, he is officially Charles III. Upon her breathing her last breath, he officially becomes king anyway. Now they've got to go through the probably multi-week sort of role that he has to play. They have to do all of the bending of the knee, placing of the sword, swearing on rocks, and all of the other pomp and circumstance bullshit that they have. It's a highly legalistic sort of royal succession system. Wish him well. I'd say these are not the greatest times to inherit the throne of the British people, considering that there's been multiple problems. Lockdownerism, you've got wars and rumors of wars. You had to rent a French aircraft carrier at one point. That's not exactly what it was like under Queen Victoria. So there's been some problems in Britain. My hope is that they do well. Even though I oppose monarchy, I can still be like, well, Queen Elizabeth was ubiquitous, a symbol of almost a century of time. And yeah, the British people are sad. There were people that were griefing the British flag on Pixel Planet, by the way. I have no clue who was doing it. Probably Irish users, I suppose. On Twitter, apparently people from Ireland and other possessions of the United Kingdom are currently celebrating. Some of them getting banned in the process for saying crazy shit. I guess Jeff Bezos got involved, and some leftoid craptivist was like, oh, I hope she died a painful death. Apparently that's not allowed on Twitter, according to TOS. Not that I give a shit, but it is funny to see a leftoid actually banned by the platform for once. Catherine Halliday, as a Scot, it's a lot more complicated. For a start, the SNP are commies. Sorry, but the SNP do nothing for Scotland. Nice live chat, by the way. Yeah, I know the SNP are commies, and they should be swept out of power completely. Not that the labor movement that would displace them would be any better, but they're all commies to me. Your conservative movement's not really that conservative. Just look at Boris Johnson. Although we will be talking about fracking and Liz Truss. Apparently there's There's rumors that the conservative movement there might actually attempt to establish some degree of energy autonomy. So yeah, Elizabeth died. And the other day during the live stream, the writing was basically on the wall. And I pointed this out, you'll remember yesterday. They were saying, don't worry, she's being made comfortable. She's resting comfortably. That sort of terminology tends to be used when somebody's on palliative care, which is, we know they're not going to make it. They're going to die. We've administered opioids and given them an extra pillow, and we're dabbing their mouth with water and making them as comfortable as they can be in their passing. That's basically the sum and substance of it. It was obvious that she was, if not certain to die, at least she was in grave medical condition. I'm just wondering, and we may never know this, whether she was already dead, actually, when they came out with the announcement. It's entirely possible she'd already passed. She sat down, in her chair, she nodded off, and then, they checked on her and she was turning blue. It's entirely possible that that's the case. We don't know. Yuri, hey Sticks, do you take meds for your ADHD? If not, how do you treat it? Me and the fiance both started Ritalin and we finally feel normal. Love ya. I used Ritalin for years, unfortunately. It'll knock out your mental faculties for a long time. Unofficially, disclaimer, this is not medical advice. If I could go back, I never would have taken it in the first place. I would have refused the medication even when I was a minor because it's useless. The way I deal with ADHD is realize it's a blessing. It gives you more energy as long as you're bouncing back and forth between more than one task. If you have more than two things to do at a time, you'll feel great with ADHD. Yeah, fuck Ritalin. Ritalin's retarded. So yeah, over in Turkey, we need to bombard them. They are attempting to drive back the Greek forces, but we will defeat them. So help prepare their flag. Again, link in the description on both platforms. I want to see hundreds and hundreds of clankers on the platform. Sorry. Even if you're just bombarding Turkey with the blue pixels, they still have to repair them, so it doesn't really matter. But we definitely need flag cleanup crew as well. They are our allies on the server, so we're trying to do well by them. And we have a rivalry, I guess, with some TikTok streamer or something like that, which is hilarious. SP Elite. Are the Progs just commies using a different name? Oh, they're both socialists. So even most people that use the term communist to talk about themselves, they're not really they're not Marxists. They certainly don't believe in statelessness, by the way. They're just socialists that want more gibs. They want more handouts. They want more welfare because they are unwilling or unable to work, generally speaking. Yeah, Carbon Hippo, it is actually official that Queen Elizabeth died. It was announced yesterday. I saw it announced live on BBC. I had that on right away when it became clear that things probably weren't going so well. And I just remember that they were trying, one of the commentators said, maybe it's because of her gout. Well, gout can be very painful. She might be bedridden at the moment. Yes, the entire royal family was immediately summoned to travel, in some cases across oceans, to be with her in her final hours because she had joint pain in her feet. That made a whole lot of sense. By the way, some people pointing out that she was friendly with Seville for some time, which is true. But that being said, it's much like Trump being friendly with Jeffrey Epstein. Doesn't mean he visited his island. He didn't. Doesn't mean he didn't effectively throw him out when he realized that he was a pervert, which he did. I would say that that's just an attack line. I guess Irish people are popularizing that one. Michael Torney, $2. No comment. Thank you. Not a bad account. When the Queen died, did she revert to reptilian? Yeah, some people were saying she's shedding her skin, so she'll be just fine. I guess we'll see. But no, she's dead. She's croaked. Censored. King Charles WEF Spaniel and PM WEF Truss. For fuck's sake. Yeah, Truss is a WEF advocate. And Charles appears to be in with that crowd. Although, I mean, if you are a major dignitary or royal anywhere in the world, you're probably getting invited at the very least. I remember Trump was called WEF for a while, and the people were trying to attack him to crack MAGA apart. And then people pointed out, well, yeah, he went to the WEF get-together. He then delivered a speech against globalism, and people were not exactly applauding him. Hello Radio lives. With QE's death goes the last bastion of propriety in the British royals. Unfortunately, proper behavior doesn't mean much these days. Yeah, I mean, Charles could abdicate, actually, in favor of his son, Andrew. Simple Logic 90. Fetterman is only agreeing to one debate in late October. Will this hurt him? It's an attempt to play defensive because it was becoming conspicuous, the fact that he wasn't willing to debate at all. He will lose the debate, but then he will play the pity me card. He'll try to antagonize Dr. Oz into saying something that is vaguely actionable with regards to Fetterman having had a stroke. That is my official prediction. I'll probably be covering that live if I'm in the right time zone at the time. Soleil 333, money for the caffeine fund. My father had to fight getting me taken off Ritalin because the doctor insisted it's totally normal to go from normal active kid to zombie-like. Yeah, I think it should be banned, actually. ADHD is not a mental illness, in my opinion. It's a blessing, actually. So is being kind of spurgy. It's basically, it's the human norm. Get down to business, do your work. You don't have to do the same fucking thing all fucking day. 10 hours a day farming turnips is not fulfilling anyone. But maybe you like to farm turnips and you like to tinker around with blacksmithing and you like to do some animal husbandry. It would have been considered a great thing back in the medieval era. All of a sudden, but because of the modern world, because of the division of labor the way it is, ADHD suddenly becomes a big stumbling block. No, a 12-year-old kid is supposed to run around and do crazy shit. They're supposed to throw rocks at things. They're supposed to be getting huge amounts of exercise. Instead, we force them to sit down for 7 or 8 hours a day and do nothing. They just fiddle around with a piece of paper, memorizing things for tests. I think that that's really the mental illness of society. Former FBI assistant director says Trump should have kept hold of a foreign kept hold of a foreign country's nuclear secrets because they had the highest price tag for classified info. Yes, the former FBI assistant Frank Figliuzzi, I think I'm pronouncing it, Figliuzzi, has a theory on why Trump kept top secret nuclear files. Now, MSN once again, these were the first ones reporting that Queen Elizabeth is deteriorating when she probably was already dead, but they had no foresight on this. Pointing out that Trump probably kept foreign nuclear secrets because, you can sell them for a lot of money. I'd love to see the transactions involved. But we don't even know that he had those materials. They are effectively just accepting the WAPO article that's based on anonymous sources and saying, well, WAPO says that he had nuclear documents, foreign ones. They're not domestic, which we were told initially, by the way. We're just going to accept that, and then let's invite this expert aboard, politically involved expert, to explain why he would do that. Well, clearly he's selling them to other countries. Where is the evidence of literally any of the claims that we've seen about Donald Trump over the last month? There is none. There's absolutely nothing to go on. We've got anonymous sources saying X, Y, and Z. We have no corroboration about, number one, who's saying it. Number two, whether what they're saying is remotely true. Number three, this is even just analysis and opinion with regards to that, assuming that it's true at all. So it's the same horseshit. It's what I warned about would happen, that they were holding it over the head of the midterms. And in the meantime, in the interim, the legacy media will report everything under the sun about nuclear documents, about scandals, about top secret and classified intel. They don't need any proof because the TDS sufferers will just assume that it's true. Slayer Sigma Zeta, do you know what Razorfist's actual stance on Trump? Is he a soft supporter like yourself, or does he just not like him? I believe he is pro-Trump, actually. Not a banned account. When will Trump be brought to justice for crimes? Well, when you have evidence that there's an actual crime that occurred, which currently they lack. They don't have anything. Which is why you have these leaks from the legacy media, which is why you have a nonstop stymieing of the investigation from both sides, because it's not a serious investigation. They know that he didn't do anything wrong. I'm a little bit stuffed up today, by the way. The trees are having sex. Again, for those of you just joining, please do take the link at the top of chat and or in the description cross-platform. Our friends in Bulgaria and Greece have been invaded by the Turks, as have the Italians, actually. You can go and clean up the bottom of Italy's boot there. They've got a bunch of vandalism by people from Turkey down there. They tried to false flag, by the way, the other day that it was Greeks that were doing it, and I don't accept that at all. I was contacted by the leader of the Turkish faction on Pixel Planet, and they said, we can't deal with this. Please withdraw. And that was 4 days ago. So we did. And then they subsequently tried to take over all of Greece while pushing into other neighboring countries. So clearly the time of peace has ended. So just pound them with the blue pixels there. Go on a little bombing run on Pixel Planet and just drop them fucking everywhere. Remember, they have to clean every single pixel up. And right now their logo there, their moon and star don't look so good. We've done more damage, by the way, to them than they've done to the Greeks. Just to be clear, Greece is a lot smaller. So we're dealing with the fact that they have a TikTok streamer on board trying to rally the troops, while they also have a considerable amount of manpower and bots, and we're still managing to push them back each day, while starting from a position where half of Greece had already been overwhelmed by them. So, yeah. SP Elite, how did Chile get far leftoid in charge, then reject the leftist constitution? Any Chilean clankers have a word on that as well? Yeah, I'd be interested, actually, in how that happened. Because most of the population voted for the plebiscite. They voted for having a constitutional referendum, but then they downed the constitutional revisions. Pork Sea Fish, by the way, from Burlington now, living in England. Your Vegas is Netherlands. Isn't legal immigration a PETA? Flying back and forth since 2019. Just got my green card. Good on you. I don't know what you mean by PETA in that. And no, Vegas is in Vermont, not in Netherlands. Not a banned account. Trump is so obviously guilty, we don't need a trial. Yeah, that seems to be the name of the game for the legacy media. Oh, due process? Fuck due process. Orange man bad. And of course, chat has devolved into talking about me over on Pixel Planet. Quite live, actually. Very, very funny. He's basically a news reporter. He cuts out the lies mainstream media tells and gives his opinion. Simple as. Thank you for that over on Pixel Planet. Yeah, the people of Turkey and certain others. There's a Canadian that has severe Sticks derangement syndrome over there. Apparently, they blame me for what's going on over there. The Turks had already invaded Bulgaria and Greece before we got involved. I wasn't even asked to do it. I just noticed it on the fucking map. So we're cleaning things up. Pour in, guys. There's almost 2,000 people watching just on YouTube. I'm only seeing a couple hundred of you over on Pixel Planet. At a bare minimum, it overloads the server and it'll be funny as fucking hell. Even if you just log on and participate in chat, it'll probably do that. They were having problems the other day. Next story, DOJ appeals decision to order special master to review evidence seized in Mar-a-Lago search and says it's halted intelligence review. So they are, being demure before the court. I'll tell you what's happening here. The DOJ/FBI/Deep State desperately do not want a third party, even if it's someone, even if they could choose the person themselves, going through the documents that are related to the Mar-a-Lago raid. It's quite simple why. The original warrant, which is the only thing that matters for the purpose of the special master, talks about classified material. Those are what the FBI wanted to review. That's what the DOJ wanted. This then pivoted. And here's the problem. The original warrant does not comport to the afterthought with the National Archives. The National Archives wanted any and all papers pertinent to the Presidential Records Act. But these are two different things. Using 3 elements of the Espionage Act to go after classified material with the idea that there are national security secrets there and we need to repatriate them because this is a breach of conduct, it's a breach of security, is totally different from saying, hey, we want this material back because we have to put it in an archive somewhere. The latter is not even pertinent to any crime. It's like a fining offense. It has to do with federal rules. It has nothing to do with a duly instated law. And so that's the problem. The special master going in there has to look at these two competing claims effectively and see what's pertinent to an investigation. Is it the criminal investigation with regards to the Espionage Act, or is it the National Archives wanting their shit back? Secondly, the special master will have no choice but to await a potential court decision on whether the executive privilege invoked over those pieces of material under Donald Trump was actually revoked by Biden, or if that's illegal. And thirdly, there are materials there that aren't pertinent to either. The National Archives does not need Melania Trump's bathrobe. They don't need news clippings. The Espionage Act does not apply to Time magazine covers. The problem is that the warrant was massively overexceeded in regards to both, and the special master will be aware of this fact. If the special master is fully independent, I have a feeling that more than half of those documents will be returned to Donald Trump because they're not classified, they're not pertinent to an investigation. This could become a major constitutional crisis. And I think that it will. They're appealing the decision. Whether the appeal is upheld or not is a totally different story. 412 Veto. Hey, Sticks, I thought you moved on to something more stiff than caffeine, only to realize you're on 0.75 playback. Have you tried Greek mountain tea? I've never heard of it. Sounds good. I'll try anything once, unless it has walnuts in it, because apparently I'm mildly allergic to them. Mr. Twisted Frenzy, our forces have been pushed back in Turkey, and it's not looking good for our boys in Greece. Orders, sir? Just keep pixeling it in blue. I'm watching live. I see that there's already progress being made. Pour in. We need hundreds more clankers. There's 2,200 people watching on YouTube. Give me 5 minutes of your time and have some fucking fun. And it will be fun because just trust me. Pay attention to chat. You can expand it down at the bottom. And then watch what they say as there's a massive blue wave. Haha, chuckle, chuckle, going back across Greece into Turkey. They will be upset. They have been now for 5 fucking days straight. Some of the greatest goddamn trolley gold that I've ever seen has been in the chat on Pixel Planet. But trust me, just fucking do it. You'll have a good time. Drop some blue pixels, help out. There's 600 people watching on Rumble. Get in there. Link in the description right at the top. Same on YouTube and pinned above in chat if you're watching there. Dave Minke, for mushy food, energy drinks, and or diapers. Yeah, the cats still have plenty of mushy food, and we've got quite a few diapers at the moment, but I can always use more of these. Somebody made a giant 9 energy drink over on Pixel Planet down in the middle of Africa. I thought that was one of the greatest homages ever. So yeah, the DOJ's appealing, which isn't a huge surprise. We don't know whether it will be upheld or not. My hope is, of course, it's not. If they do uphold it, it'll be really, really weird because you're effectively saying the things that clearly no reasonable person would think pertinent to the National Archives bullshit or the warrant itself under the Espionage Act can sit there in storage and be rifled through by FBI agents, even though it clearly doesn't have any legal pertinency to either case. My hope is that it gets upheld. A special master will throw out half of the shit there, and it'll be really funny. It'll be a whack in the face for the Dems before the midterms, by the way, if that happens and that decision is made prior to the election itself. John Casamassa, what's the response to people who say that Trump can't claim the documents were declassified because he can't just declare material as being declassified? Any legal references on the subject? That is false. He can. He can literally just stare at the box and say that. This was even pointed out the other day in some hit pieces with regards to the special, the special master being appointed. It was said, well, even if Donald Trump, this is from Bill Barr, former Attorney General. He's like, well, even if Donald Trump stood over those documents and said, I deem these declassified, that's just reckless. But reckless does not mean illegal. He's saying the quiet part out loud. I'm almost thinking that it was a promotion of Trump's position legally here. The idea is that a president of the United States must be able to declassify things by simply referencing them in some way or deeming them unofficially to be declassified. If you can't do that, you cannot discuss anything with foreign dignitaries. You would be walking on eggshells with every conversation that you had with diplomats, foreign heads of state, heads of the military who may not have direct access to certain documents, some colonel or something leading a strike against Al-Qaeda, with staffers, with confidants, with anyone. You can't discuss anything. What president in their right mind would discuss anything that was even low-level classified if they knew that they could get nailed for it after they left office? The whole point of the presidency, one of the big points, is being the head diplomat of the United States. And subjugate to that, of course, the vice president and certain other people that are associated with them at the executive level. You can't conduct that kind of diplomacy if you can't declassify material. Hair Juicer 3000 turned in a little bit late. Turkey invaded what? Turkey invaded Greece and Bulgaria and Armenia and Italy on Pixel Planet. There are links in the description on both platforms, as well as pinned at the top of chat if you happen to be watching on YouTube. Join the fray. We're going to cause some epic salt to flow here. Just bombard all the red that you see with light blue. You can help out the Bulgarians too. They're in green up above. Of course, you need basic geographic understanding to take part in this, I suppose. We're cleaning up the Greek flag steadily, I see. Throughout the last few days, we've been steadily pushing them back. And if you look at Turkey right now on the server, it's pretty much a mess. We've done catastrophic damage to the middle of their country. And it continues to mount, and it will continue. And we have a nemesis on TikTok apparently trying to rally them. So just for the glory of non-TikTok sites, because TikTok is a clusterfuck of awful and literally run by the Chinese Communist Party, you must do your part to stop the communists. Turkey may actually be invading Greece soon. Yeah, I mean, it could happen in real life at any given time. We'll see what happens. Next story, Truss, UK to cap domestic energy prices and end fracking ban. Now, the first part, of course, is stupid. It's central planning. This is a good idea, though. Liz Truss has already made her first major decision as Prime Minister of the UK. She was appointed, of course, a couple of days ago in the wake of Boris Johnson leaving. And her first decision isn't a terrible one, even for a WEF junkie like her. Beginning exploratory drilling offshore in the United Kingdom could mean that you don't suffer as much because you seem intent on waging an energy war with the Russians, who have you over the barrel. So yeah, it's actually a good decision. So she's starting off on a good footing. She's starting off her prime ministership with a bang. Of course, she's the last one that'll be appointed by Queen Elizabeth because now she's croaked. And it was funny because a couple of days ago when she was meeting with Truss there before she died. Her hands were all purple and she was clearly messed up, and apparently she just deteriorated from there. MSN was accidentally right with their hyperbolic news stories the other day that I talked about on my live stream. Very interesting. SP Elite. Pretty sure the Queen was the last person alive that shook hands with the German mustache man. She also outlived the entirety of the Soviet Union, too. Yeah, exactly, which is great. Not that outliving the Soviet Union was that hard. It didn't last that long. Their empire collapsed, mainly because it just inherited it was just the Russian Empire with a new economic model anyway. The Tsarist family just was shoved aside in favor of a bunch of party oligarchs and Bolshevik buttfuckers, so. I like how some people are criticizing my decision to play around on Pixel Planet. Dude, again, I have raging ADHD. I work all day. I get up, I make videos, I do live streams, I edit books, I write books, I organize shit, and do a million other things as well. I have to crawl the news about an hour a day just to get ideas for videos. Because sometimes you have to go with low-hanging fruit because the legacy media is not so good anymore. I figured that it's my choice to drop a few pixels here and there once in a while throughout the day, just to fucking show that I can. I'm doing it right now, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. By the way, there's a 7-second cooldown there. Sometimes it drops to 4 or even 2. Sort of depends. Cold Summer 91, deleting TikTok improves mental health in general. Absolutely. You should not use TikTok. It's a wasteland of stupidity. Ian Gillespie. King Chuck is ultra WEF, by the way. Greenwasher extraordinaire. God help us here in the UK with liberty, car ownership, and so on. Sketch therapy. Stalin was the first HR lady. The results were horror. Next, op-ed. How the scourge of originalism is taking over the Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court, that is, of course. The other day, Kenya's Supreme Court, I think, was trending. And I was like, oh, Supreme Court. Oh, it's over in East Africa. Okay. In 1987, the Senate resoundingly rejected the nomination of Judge Robert Bork for the Supreme Court. Bork, because it found his originalist views unacceptable. As a law professor, Bork argued that the meaning of a constitutional provision is fixed when it is adopted and can be changed only by amendment. That is true, to be clear in general. You can change constitutional ramifications via SCOTUS decision. Generally, SCOTUS has been unwilling to do this, generally speaking, because it's a bad idea and causes social alienation. It's better to let lower courts handle things whenever possible anyway, and this seems to be the ethos of the current SCOTUS as well. This article talks about, I guess the opposite is supposedly true, which is fuck the founders, fuck the original actual meaning of the material that was actually penned. Just focus on the explicit language. Go ahead and revise it however you want. When you consider language, the language itself does not matter. I want you to understand something from a linguistic perspective that most people will never understand, but you're privy to this knowledge, so I'll dispense it to you. Only what is represented matters. That is the actual meaning, describing an action, describing a place, describing a thing in certain ways. The actual experience that you would have with that thing, with that person, with that time, with that object is all that matters. It's about understanding. Language is just a stand-in, a method of transmission of understanding. It's the same as money. A dollar has no value. Its value is completely malleable. A dollar might buy a loaf of bread yesterday, and it might buy one slice of bread tomorrow because it's malleable. It's capable of being changed. But the thing represented is not changed. What this is linguistic warfare. It's an attempt, for example, to use the concept of well-regulated militia in the context of the Second Amendment and subjugate it to the modern understanding of the term regulated. When most people say regulated, it's fallen out of favor to say, I just regulated my watch. Oh, I regulated my printing press. But that doesn't mean that in the late 1700s, regulated tended to mean government regulation. There wasn't really a government to regulate things at the time in which that was penned. You had a very loose ensemble government with total state supremacy, or prior, you're arguing under the Confederation, actually, the Articles of Confederation. You wouldn't have used regulated in the context of the Constitution except to mean well-ordered in general. Government regulation is a subjugate of regulation at large. It's sort of like if I say American. I've explained this on video a few days ago. American means you're an American. Asian American means that you're an American of a certain ethnic background. If 100 years from now, 99% of the population within the United States were comprised of people of roughly Japanese origin, they may make the mistake of doing the same thing and saying, well, when it says American, clearly it means the same thing as Asian American. They would try to subjugate that which actually subjugated. We see the same thing with originalism in the terminology. The idea is that originalism bad because the original meaning, which expresses a specific concept at a specific time and applies to specific things, is now outmoded because we use different language. And the problem is that that's completely wrong. That's not what the founders had in mind. You do have asides, especially Jefferson, I consider him the greatest president, about the idea that the Constitution is able to change. It can be a living document. The concept was that you would amend it over time, not that you would simply revise the amendments that are there with revisionism. That concept did not exist in the late 1700s. The fact is that originalism should be the name of the game. We should understand the Second Amendment as being very absolute. We should understand all of the amendments as being utterly absolute. And it was understood even more recently in U.S. history in the Prohibition era that you can't simply supersede constitutional protections by making a law or even by a SCOTUS decision. You needed to amend the Constitution. That's why Prohibition was a constitutional amendment. And by the way, it happened to be one that was retrospectively looked at largely negatively, and it didn't help anybody. So be careful. Cold Summer 91, think Europe is set for a crisis in years to come. I'd say it's already in one. Preamble, Part 1. Hey Sticks, after spending 2 years in one of the world's most locked down cities, I just bought a rural house in a nice quiet corner of the country. It comes with a wood fire heater, solar power, and massive garden bed. Sounds good. Part 2. If you'd like to nominate the first thing I grow, it gets very cold down here. Thanks for the vids that helped getting through the rough times. Looking forward to watching through what's next. Clank to all. A nice rural house in a quiet corner of the country. You're saying it gets quite cold there, but I don't know the exact zone. I would say, what's the first thing that you should plant? Well, look up your zone map first and foremost, but I can give you suggestions. I love collards and think that they're great. You can plant those in. Put a lot of beans in. If your soil's like poor, you can pump it full of nitrogen. Just grow fucking lentils or something like that. I'm partial, if you want a flower, grow Nicotiana. I think that those are the best flower. They smell nice. They open up in the evening and you're sitting there on your rocking chair on your porch. You'll be able to smell it on the breeze on a hot, dry day. Maxwell with Schools, with the Queen's passing and Andrews taking his place, do you see separatist initiatives in the Isles undergoing a revival, perhaps an IRA comeback? I doubt it at this point. It's been a while. Josh Elson, how do I learn about real-world history and ignore world talking points presented media? Just look up lots and lots of independent content creators. Look it up on YouTube or anywhere else and then sort by, look up documentaries and shit. Try to find the old ones from the 70s. Renard Moldrake, may she groom my stool, but the YouTube sniper won. Rocky, seeing piss-drunk Pelosi pushed to be Italy's ambassador is hilarious and can't be a coincidence. If she doesn't succeed, I fully expect her to pander to Newsom to be the ambassador of Napa Valley. The Landlord Harassment Channel, saw Sticks open for Foghat in 1979. You were great. Sketch Therapy, here's a 4-part series on young Stalin by History Bro channel by Bo. He's one of the Sargon Karl's crew. It's a fascinating look at the rise of Bolshevism. Sounds good. Trash Panda. I bet David Hogg only knows about Alexander Hamilton because of that stupid musical. I think you may actually be right on that one. Dylan Butler. How much longer do you think the West dominance will last, if not lost already? Hasn't been lost. I think it'll last another century, actually, but I'm in the minority among the black pillars. They tend to be the squeaky axle that's getting the grease. Viking Woman 1988. Listen to Darkwave with the Viking Woman and SLC Dog 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern, Thursday nights on Valley Free Radio, the same station David Pakman started his career. David Pakman, oh God. So yeah, we're still surging on Pixel Planet. Take that fucking link. Start bluing it in and drive the Turkish menace back out of Greece. Remember, they fired the first shot, so, it is what it is. We'll have some fun. Yet another inflation problem. This is by Vox. Food prices are driving up world hunger. The global inflation crisis has hit Americans' wallets hard, but its consequences have been even graver for large swaths of the world. According to a report last month from the World Bank, food in many countries is now 10 to 30% more expensive than it was a year ago. Very sad, of course. I would like to point something out with the Vox take on this. They fucking hate the U.S. working class. So this article is effectively, I know that you're hurting, you're skipping meals, you're having a million different problems, even though you're fucking working hard. You're not a deadbeat or something. But look at these people over there. They're more important than you. Vote Biden 2024. That's basically what it boils down to now, isn't it? We've seen a lot of this from the leftoid media anyway. They just have a visceral hate of the U.S. working and middle class and of the Western working middle class in general. So they want to send more money to Ukraine, more grain shipments to Ethiopia, when you can't even afford a fucking corn on the cob. And I just think that that's not the way that governments are meant to be incepted. First and foremost, the government should be looking out for the interests of its own domestic population that actually pays it to exist. But here's where the problem lies. Governments are not mainly paid by their own population anymore. They're mainly paid by a cabal of extremely rich bankers and corporatists, globalists, Klaus Schwab, George Soros, etc. And they have no national loyalty because it does not matter what happens in their nation. Their investments are everywhere. They have homes everywhere. Their yachts go everywhere. And they get paid behind under the table by people from everywhere. And it's that's really the problem. That is the problem of globalism. It is a form of tyranny. It's a form of imperialist communism, actually, when you really get to think about it. High centralization, the exclusion of independent voices, the exclusion of small businesses, the exclusion of the working class. It is a severe authoritarian system. If anything, it's the natural evolution of the old wave of imperialism. Back in the day, hundreds of years ago, imperialistic powers would fight over a swath of land in the third world. These days, they just co-own it. They buy shares in it. And people think that it's magically better because they've got their crapple iPhone or something like that. Adam THM. Sticks, what do you think about Illinois going 100% cashless bail in its entire state while reducing police actions on how they handle crime? I'm worried. I don't have any problem with the elimination of bail for minor crimes. After all, the Constitution forbids excessive bail. We've been violating that particular part of the Constitution now for a very long time. When somebody, though, has committed second-degree murder or something like that, I don't think that it's necessary that we say, oh, yeah, you can go free. It's okay. We've had too many cases where people who are convicted of a violent crime, I'm not talking about major non-violent crime, so embezzlement or something, money laundering, or a violent but simple crime, simple assault or something like that, making threats, reckless driving. For minor crimes or major crimes that are not violent, go ahead and eliminate bail. It's not necessary. For major and violent crimes, so rape, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, vehicular homicide, second-degree murder, we see these people getting out next day with no bail, and it is goddamn insane. That's not justice. It's not criminal justice reform. It's not a reform at all. It's a denigration of the basic concept that society has the right to have some sort of assurance that there will be some degree of order and safety within that society. Again, you can reform the bail system without letting out a second-degree murderer. And it is worrisome. Josh Elson, Turkey shall be drawn to the clankers. Shall be drowned to the clankers, I think you mean. Yeah, keep pushing them back. I see that we're doing good work already. Down in Crete, we appear to be expanding as well. Also, you can just dump blue pixels on anything in Turkey, you know. Again, though, please don't destroy meaningful art. We're not there to do that. That can be annexed. Not a banned account. We should draft the unemployed to defend Ukraine. Yeah, I need some unemployed clankers to just pour in. Jordan Dennis, chance old Queen smoked crack. I highly doubt that Queen Elizabeth was smoking crack. Sure, she tried laudanum a couple of times back in the day and probably marijuana and a few other things. Let's be reasonable about people being people. I highly doubt that she ever took up a crack pipe. Next news story, 1 million migrants, Biden's asylum abuse. The New York Times details the asylum flood into our homeland as the left exploits America's generosity. Yes, indeed, you've got a situation here where actual asylum seekers, so there's no safe third country, which most of them that doesn't apply to, no safe third country, genuine belief they will be persecuted, complete collapse of the economy, commie regime, etc., are being mixed in 1 in 100 to people that have no legitimate reason to come to the United States. Nonetheless, when they get to the border, they claim asylum and they get processed within the United States. Remember, the Remain in Mexico policy that worked for several years has been upended by the Biden administration. It's gone now, which means that a person can approach the border, no paperwork, say where they're from, even if it's not where they're from. So I'm actually Cuban. Yeah, I know I don't have wet foot policy, but I'm trying to escape Fidel Castro. I'm Cuban. You have to let me in. I'm seeking asylum. They say, okay. They take basic biometric data, sign your name here. Then they bring them into the country and they're free to go. There's no checkup. They don't have the ability to process that many people. And so that person is capable of disappearing into the woodwork. What's more concerning is when it involves children. We had a report earlier this year that something like 1/3, an entire third of all of the unaccompanied minors who were brought across and then sent off to live with supposedly relatives, supposedly a guardian, supposedly an advocate of some sort have disappeared. We don't know where they are. We're talking about tens of thousands of small children, unfortunately, most of which now are dead, being sex trafficked, or being enslaved. And that's Biden's doing. We have a porous border. We eliminated a policy that was helping to alleviate at least the worst part of the issue, and we scrapped that. And now we have millions of people coming into the United States who don't belong in the United States because they have no legitimate legal claim to asylum. It simply doesn't exist. We're talking about a legal claim. You can think that it's unethical to say, well, you have to remain outside of the United States. Go ahead and believe it's unethical. Is it under the law? Is it legal? Is it necessary and pragmatic, by the way? We have vast economic problems in most of the world right now, and you're saying it's not going to put a strain on resources to allow tens of thousands of people on some days into the United States? And by the way, it doesn't burden them in processing these people. Half of the agents that otherwise could patrol the border are sitting there doing paperwork all day. It just doesn't work. Shanjak. There were exactly 1,776 days since 10/28/2017, and the announced Queen's End. A famous whistleblower started posting on that day. So many questions. Interesting. You'll have to send me info on Twitter or something about that. Is that the Bethesda one, where in Fallout 4 or something like that, there was a reference of the Queen dying? I remember that actually from years ago, but I can't remember the context. Mr. Twisted Frenzy, I propose that it be put into law that any politician who takes money from any other source other than their fixed salary while in office be tried for high treason. Also, just ban them from doing book deals. Yeah, I would agree with both of those. Wait till after you're in office, then the kickbacks can come. It would limit the amount of time that they seek office. They would do the backroom dealing for like 10 years, and then they would retire, and they wouldn't seek office again, so they could make the money that they needed. Renard Muldrake, Super Chat, blocking any critical comment on the Queen. I don't know. I think there is probably a ban list of words there, though. Yeah, we're cleaning up the Greek flag over on Pixel Planet. It is getting a little bit cleaner, but it's still under fire. So again, links in the description on either platform, YouTube or Rumble, pinned at the top of chat. We need many more clankers than are currently there. I need like 200 or 300 more people, actually. We drive back Turkey today on Pixel Planet because they invaded, I think, 4 or 5 neighboring countries at the same time. So we cannot allow that to stand. We have to flex our clanking muscle ability. Josh Elson, 70s independent history that you recommend for world history. I don't have any specifics. In Search of is good, but that's more paranormal and unexplained. That's with Leonard Nimoy, by the way. Excellent series. Remember him more for that than for Star Wars. I also did Ancient Mysteries in the 2000s. Legendary voice, of course, Leonard Nimoy. There was a Loch Ness documentary from 76 or something like that that I liked as well. History documentaries, just look up an aspect of history and then sort for playlists if you're on YouTube. Elsewhere, you can look it up separately, and you'll find what you're looking for. They're all online. The Landlord Harassment Channel. How many world leaders or celebs do you think watch you? I know Roseanne Barr was a viewer for a while. I don't know if she still does. I've gotten correspondence from some, but I won't name names because in some cases it's interpersonal chat. One particular 90s youth movie star apparently liked the fact that I was shirtless for a while and thought that was funny because it was a dude. But I don't name names. Everything that's told to me privately is confidential. But yes, I am aware of the fact that there are people that are celebrity, singer, etc. that do watch my material. Battle Elf, working for Moloch is lucrative. Money for politicians. Yeah, sell your soul for rock and roll. They can't even rock. What are they selling it for? Next story, opinion. America has a problem. We, my fellow progressives, must admit it. Now, this is a CNN opinion piece, and it's very, very funny. So you'll excuse me if I'm smiling slightly. This is an admission that the problem was that they shut down schools in the United States. I would say, on the one hand, it is not just the leftoids that did this. Neoliberals and even neocons engage in the same behavior. But it's good to see finally, and this isn't the first article, there have been a few over the last week roughly, that they're finally sort of pulling back the curtains and showing people how bleak it is. Several years ago, when the school closures in the United States began, I warned that it was going to hold back testing scores, it was going to cause mental health issues, it was going to cause a bump in crime, especially when those smaller kids get to, puberty. And cause all manner of problems in socialization, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And people like me that warned of that at the time were a minority, and we were cast off as conspiracy theorists. The general ethos opposing us was, well, they're just kids. They'll be fine. They'll bounce back. They're hardy. They're kids. They can deal with anything. Now, all of a sudden, all of these people are admitting, yeah, we trashed the test scores. We caused, more kids to have depression. They're killing themselves at higher rates. We caused all sorts of anxiety. We caused every problem under the sun by closing the schools up. It is not just a progressive problem. To be clear, this is almost like a we'll take the blame. We're circling the wagons for the Bidenites in order for us to take the blame instead. Really, it's the fault of the entire establishment. They're all to blame. Virtually all of them had a hand in it. You have a few exceptions. Trump never supported it. DeSantis never supported it. Kristi Noem never supported it. Greg Abbott, I don't think, supported it either. You have a handful of Republicans, certainly libertarians, and a very small number of like really, really hippie leftists that never saw the problem and were anti-vaxxers actually before the right wing was. Those are the only people that stood against this shit. Independent commentators, a very small number of wonks and politicians, a very, very small number of craptivists, and that's basically it. We're talking maybe 1-2% of people. I realize that many of you opposed it as well, but as far as people that had like an audience and were like broadcasting themselves, which you used to do on YouTube, now you do it on Rumble and elsewhere, only a very small proportion stood against them, in part because they were worried about being censored. I had to make a lot of it new tech exclusive because of YouTube's policies, for example. The fact is that school closures did not work. They did irreparable harm, and you've screwed up millions of people. So congratulations to the liberals and the leftoids and to the neocons and to the entire lame establishment. Thank you for taking an educational system that already was in crisis in the U.S. in the wake of more and more federalization. You've got the No Child Left Act, Common Crap Act, etc. You've already denigrated the educational system, and now you've heaped abuse upon injury in the wake of that because of your lockdownerism, because a bunch of boomer teachers were afraid of getting infected with the coof. And that's really what it was about. Part of it was just playing up to teachers' unions. So thanks for the admission. Although Jill Filipovic and her fellow leftoids here aren't the only ones to blame. In fact, you're just the tip of the iceberg. Battle Elf, how does one gain entry to Moloch's cabal? I don't know. I'm on Team Keck myself. Battle Elf, how can I join Team Moloch? I don't know. I guess you have to talk to the Clinton Foundation about that one. Send them an email and see what they say. Sparky, daycare and helicopter parenting were bad enough. Yeah, you should do free-range parenting and homeschooling and stuff like that. Get together with your community. I'm sure that you can split the labor. Again, I use the metaphor. Mrs. Smith down the road is really great with English. She can teach the kids reading and writing. Mr. Jones over there, he's a math whiz. He's a fucking CPA or something. He can teach them accounting and math. Styx Hexenhammer over there is good with comparative religion. That'll be the elective course. Get your kids together in your community. It's local. There's more accountability. You know where they live. So if your child comes back with genital bruises and they were just at Mr. Smith's schoolroom, which is his living room, you know who to punch out. It's better that way. There's more accountability. It's cheaper. It's a fucking hell of a lot easier. Form local syndicates to cross-train with homeschooling, and our kids will be much better off. You can't do that in every community, but you can do it in small towns. You can do it in suburbia. You can do it in rural areas, unless they're super, super rural. It's easier. It's more cost efficient. It makes a lot more sense. That's what we should be doing. Our child will be homeschooled. I'm not going to deal with the public school system. Next story and final story. Election Wizard saying this. Breaking. Oh, this is a good one. Some good news economically from the Bidenomic stewardship. Breaking. Secretary of State Blinken announces new military aid worth more than $2 billion for Ukraine. Oh, thank you very much, Biden administration. It was about $15 billion last week, and now here's $2 billion more. How many handouts have been given to the Ukrainian military by now by the United States? How many tens of billions of dollars has it amounted to? I've lost track at this point. It's almost like when I see this, I'm like, okay, whatever. I almost ignore it. It's gotten to the point where it's so common. This corruption, this stupidity has happened so often that I almost don't even want to report on it because it's like nobody's even going to give a shit. They've been doing it so much. There's no accountability. And you know that a lot of that money will be laundered anyway. It'll be laundered by the Ukrainian government. Some of it will be a kickback for U.S. Congress. Some of it will be fucking sold to the Russians. They were selling missiles and rocket launchers and shit online apparently some time ago. Apache Senpai. Morning, Sticks. Any recommendations for a channel that does daily news? Tim Pool is getting kind of repetitive and just black pills more than giving news. Well, I do daily news. Look up H.A. Goodman and also Lionel Nation. I don't agree with everything that they say, but I like them. Same with Tim Pool, by the way. Kyle Miller, are you ready for the constant October surprises next month? Yes, prediction, and you're right. There will be more leaks of sensitive material from the Mar-a-Lago raid throughout October. It will be designed to hold over the head of the midterms to try to denigrate MAGA candidates, I warned about this when the raid first happened. It's obvious. The writing is on the wall. It will occur. And it will mostly be false. When it's true at all, it'll be misleading. Please no more super chats, by the way, because I have to get through a few here and remind people about Pixel Planet and following me on Rumble as well. Sparky, 200 years ago, it was mostly homeschooling. Yeah, if you got schooled at all, it was in a one-room schoolhouse. And the school teacher lived right in the community. And things were, well, not necessarily always better, but they were more stable. Battle Elf, how much does Team Keck pay? About $3.50. Debonair Nerd, would you consider an appearance on Joe Rogan? Yeah, I mean, if I was invited on Rogan's podcast, I would make an appearance. I won't smoke the weed on the Rogan podcast. I guess he'll just have to give me a couple beers or something like that instead. Yeah. By the way, how many people are watching right now? Yeah, we got almost 4,500 watching live. I realized that I appeared an hour early, so it's less than normal. My apologies, but again, time scheduling and shit like that. Please do, everyone, get on Pixel Planet. Take that link pinned at the top of chat if you're on YouTube or in the description cross-platform. We need more people. We are steadily clearing out the Greek flag. It is half repaired already, but we need to push the Turkish forces back because they keep invading all their fucking neighbors. I mean, why aren't there more Bulgarians, Italians, and Armenians on the server that are pissed off about the situation, by the way? They've all been completely overrun. It seems like the Clankers and the Greeks are the only ones that are actually fighting them, and I don't understand what the fuck is going on. Didn't they grief Ukraine too the other day? I'm pretty sure they griefed the Ukrainians. I know they went after the Romanians and shit like that, and they're allied with the Serbs, I think. Hell, I wonder if they've taken over any of France or Spain by now. It's like we're the only ones standing in their way. I realize that the Greeks and Italians have had their squabbles because I guess the Greeks island jumped for a while and Italy wanted to take over Albania, but then Greece got involved and they're pissed about that. But I mean, isn't there a bigger fish to fry right now? Like the one that's invading 5 countries at the same fucking time? So get on there. Zeranx, I figured this is why Trump won't announce yet. People need to know Dems screwed us going into the midterms and they'll ride him to obfuscate our ills. Yeah, I think at this point he's probably not going to announce till after the midterms. And I suspect that he will and that he'll run. Sparky, will Clank Nation ally with Kekistan? We've never had any hostility with Kekistan. So yeah, a de facto ally or at least neutral. Josh Elson sent $5. No comment. Thank you very much. Yes, the other thing that I wanted to point out is please do follow on Rumble. If you are watching on YouTube right now to the near 3,500 people, please follow the channel on Rumble. There is a link in the description. I will also drop it briefly here in chat. Please follow me there. The other day, we leapfrogged past InfoWars, and we're now in a friendly competition to 110,000 subscribers. However, in the night, they gained a bunch of subscribers and leapfrogged ahead of us, and they have an edge of a few hundred subscribers. I don't know how that happened. I guess they put out the call to get people onto Rumble, but we must stop them. So we're going to try to be the first to 110K. Of course, not the first on the platform. There are people with millions of subscribers now on Rumble, but we're trying to leapfrog InfoWars because I figure that's a pretty good fucking metric. When you're about even with a group that has dozens of staff and a bunch of different people that are working there and a budget that's, I don't know, 1,000 times what I'm putting into my content creation, and the audience level is roughly similar, that's pretty good. I would say that's a pretty good indicator of the staying power of Clankdom. And for those of you on Rumble, if you want to share out the link, of course, you might know somebody else that uses the platform. You can definitely help Clankdom. It is very much appreciated. You need to go shirtless again, Sticks. No homo. Yeah, not in this weather. Definitely not. Wait till it gets hot again. Maybe next summer or something. I'll starve myself and lose 50 pounds, and then I'll look like a lick. I'll look like a lich, and I'll just be totally messed up and all pale and weird, and then I'll go shirtless. I'll just have an open robe on. I'll look like Joe Biden if he was still competent. If his mind was still with him, that would be funny as fuck. By the way, I saw an old dude actually today in the Yumbo that looked almost exactly like Joe Biden. He had a walker. I figured it was fitting. Anyway, that's the end of the news for the day. Of course, again, Queen Elizabeth dying, sad. DOJ is trying to block the special appointment of the special master for the Mar-a-Lago documents. we'll see what happens. We're going to have to keep a close eye on that because a decision could be made technically at any time. I suspect that the appeal will be rejected and that the court will proceed with having a special master. That's exactly what the DOJ doesn't want. And then it gets really, really interesting, really, really spicy. But yeah, I have a few other things to do, so I'm going to go off now. Please do get onto Pixel Planet. Now that you're not watching the live stream, you can give me 5 minutes of your time to go repair some of Greece, and we'll have a good time about it. There are a bunch of people on the server, and it's already, I think, lagging slightly. They seem to have upgraded, though. It was handling 2,000 people yesterday like a trooper, so we'll see how many hundreds more we can get onto the platform. I may do a one-off video later on the subject as well, and probably a Rumble shout-out also. That's about all. Peace out.